Good evening, everyone. So I would like to thank first Victoria and the ArtSci team for the opportunity that I can speak for the second time in the laser. And this time I'm not going to speak about myself because in April I spoke about my exhibition and my art project, but this time I will speak as the founder and the director of Cairotronica. And Cairotronica is a festival of new media and electronic arts in Egypt, and it's the only one in Egypt, Arab world, and North Africa and Middle East as well. I think when I just mentioned the word Egypt, it comes to the memory of everyone, the pyramids. And this is how probably you know it from schools or postcards, but in reality, this is Egypt. So it's completely different than the one you see from the postcard. And this intensity, Cairo is a mega city, they call it. It's 23 million inhabitants. It's the biggest in North Africa, again, and also the Middle East. And so coming with the idea to organize the festival of new media art in Egypt, it's like a necessity to work with art, technology, and science, which creating this platform for artists and scholars and students and engineers and so on. Cairotronica as a festival started as a small exhibition in 2013. It was called DigiFest, or Digital Art Festival. And then in 2016, we came with the idea of Cairotronica itself. And we started with 4 major activities and exhibitions and more as workshops and an academic conference, as well as some of performances. And we have the major sponsor or supporter is the state, is the Ministry of Culture in Egypt. And they give us, because they have huge places, which normally palaces that they have, and they give it to people that actually work in culture and art. So that was some images from the first edition of the project. We did exhibit there from artists from all over the world. We had people from the 5 continents. That was around 45 45 projects from for 55 artists. And the project will have more social, political, and religious context, which will lead a little bit about what we're going to speak about in the end of my presentation. So this is some images from the exhibition, the conference, and some also performances, also with collaboration with the university where I teach, which is the American University in Cairo, which they have huge also facilities. I'll try to also be a little bit fast. This is the second edition in 2018 in last May, and under the theme of the future of possibilities. And here we have the book, the catalog of the exhibition if you want to look at after. And then this year we had 85 artists from 25 countries, also again the 5 continents. And the Cairotronica is a media art festival, maybe like many others around the world. But what I always feel like it's different is the challenges that we face in organizing such festival in the time of conflict, as we said, in the Middle East at the moment. So again, some images about the exhibition and the project were there from, again, people from all over the world. And we have the exhibition with 47 artists. They participated there from Egypt and North Africa, also from Europe mostly. I said fortunately and unfortunately from West Europe, because normally the funding, which again one of the problems we will talk about, that comes normally from Europe or in the US. And again, this is some of the images. And we had a film screening as well. The activities of Cairotronica this year, we tried to make it a little bit different. So as normally the people they come with for the exhibition is the major activity, and then you have the conference. People that didn't like it so much, we changed it to me like casual talks. We have film screening, we have the workshops, so as an educational part inside. And we changed that having Cairotronica residency. So now we're also working with other sister festivals, like we exchange artists with Ars Electronica, with Japan Media Art Festival, and we try to send a local artist to go and participate in some different places. Also, we have Cairotronica Make, which also was the Fab Lab and the Makers community, And as well, we have Cairotronica Youth, which is our youth, which is again working with the age between 12 until 18. Part of its workshops and also guided tour to educate them about new media and so on. And this is what some images from the workshops in Cairo. And we have, instead of the conference, we have the artist talks. And this is, again, as I said before, this is all like probably any media art festival around the world. But what just make it really different is the challenges we face. I will just take briefly about what kind of challenges we have. The funding. Probably, again, funding is a major problem of funding art and culture, but when it comes to the Middle East, it doesn't exist actually in our budget. Like the state have no budget at all for art. So if you would like to fundraise for art, you have to go for the private sector and try to find money, but they don't actually support art at the moment. So the thing that we look at foreign institutions that can support a kind of art, like Goethe Institute, like Helvetia, the Swiss Culture Foundation, like the American Embassy. And normally this institution are meant to fund their own artists, but they don't fund Egyptian or African or Asian artists. So it's a little bit difficult to find money to people to support other countries than their own citizens. And this is an ongoing problem that I had like this year, for example, the British Council, I was very angry about the amount of money they give, which is really very little. And she said, like, why you are so angry like that? You should ask your state to give you money. We're just only here to support British artists, but not Egyptian artists or any artists from everywhere else. And some, for example, the American Embassy this year, until 2 weeks before the festival, and said like, we're not interested. 2 weeks before the festival. And that from the American Embassy, which are, again, meant to bring American artists to come to Egypt and exhibit their work. So with this economical difficulty, is a little bit really very, very, very difficult to get money to do such a kind of very high-tech, expensive kind of festival. The second thing is the participation. Still, I mean, media art is really very old term, and the field itself, it's old. But when it comes to the Middle East, when it comes to Egypt, is a little bit new for people. People didn't know how to interact with a new media, and they still have the idea of traditional art or the traditional form of art, like don't touch, this is very precious and you cannot touch and interact with. And this is, again, with the culture of people in Egypt, it's challenging if you want to exhibit that type of work. So we try to play, again, you simulate how that works, you invite people, and you try to go for places like unusual places that can attract people, because people normally attracted to the technology. And again, with the very low education, because we have in Egypt like 39% illiterate people. So we go very low to the level that you really simplify that this is an artwork. Still, that you work with the smartphone, you have it in your hand, but you can do an artwork with the smartphone or the tablet and so on. So again, it's part of what we do is educating people, but again, it's a big challenge that we try to work with when you're organizing such an event there. And lastly, which is the most difficult thing, is censorship. And again, I mentioned that we have political and religious context, and this is like taboos in Egypt, and mostly also in the Arab world, that you cannot touch. So this year, for example, we had problem with the national security, that they come and they want to take out some artworks because they criticize so much religion or political situations. And again, even if you discuss with them that this is inappropriate, you cannot remove an artwork because the artists have the freedom of expression. They can discuss whatever kind of subject, but you have to work with that, with this political regime we have in Egypt after the Arab Spring in 2011, that you have a different mentality. And if you really want to exhibit or work with artists, you have to find a way not to make them angry, but at the same time exhibit and give them opportunities. Especially people, when they come from abroad, they don't know what does it mean that you cannot exhibit an artwork because it touches a religious taboo or a political figure. And again, that's the thing that we try to work with in Egypt. Thank you.